you're listening on audio, you should now be hearing me. It looks like I'm live on Alpha Geek Radio and on the app, and I see little blinky lights on Hangouts on Air. We had a brief hiccup with Audio Hijack Pro. It just stopped working all of a sudden, so let me know if that happens again. We ought to be live on video, live on the app, live on Alpha Geek Radio, live on the website. Okay, now? All right. Well, I am going to keep talking because I think somebody can probably hear me by now. I'm drinking a lovely Bud Light Platinum. All right, good. Steve confirms I am finally up on Alpha Geek Radio on iOS, so that's good. All right, we're going to have some fun today. Got a big show. It is well past time for roll call. And looks like we got a small but lively chat room going on today. We should start by saying happy birthday to Rose here from Australia. She is here, and it is her birth week. Let's see, roll call. We got Donald and Steve and Brett and Dan at Dr. Dream. I forgot what Dr. Dream's real name is. And Jenna. Ian Douglas is here, who is our guest for the Chit Chat Across the Pond this week. And Kim and Leon is here. Leon Sargent is here? Oh, blame Guy Searle. There you go. Okay, that's who that is. And Dorothy and John and Nuris is back for another dose. And New York Linda is here. How you doing, Linda? Definitely waving at you. And Steve again. And we just lost somebody. Somebody disappeared. Okay, title came. Oh, wait a minute. But you remind me, Dorothy, that my lower third disappeared. And we will put that back. Should be there. Why is it not coming up? Well, what's up with that? All right, Kevin snuck in. All right, why is my lower third not showing up? Let me turn it off and then turn it on again. There it is. All right. Whew. Wouldn't want to watch this whole show without everybody going, Allison Sheridan, the NosillaCast podcast, hostofpodfeed.com, Podfeed, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all right, we're having some fun now. We're ready to go. We got a lot of stuff to do. Let me go ahead and see if I've managed to bork up GarageBand. Oh, hang on just a second.
AGR is got a problem. It's stuttering. It's duplicating everything you're saying. So we might have to stop and restart.
I think I can stop. Steve says Alpha Geek Radio is having a problem. I'm just going to try hitting stop and then start again. So maybe it got messed up when I had a mess of my audio. So I'm starting it again. Connection established. Okay, so Steve will let me know how that works out. All right, so we got the link to the right thing. Yeah, so I'm still not completely sure on how this Hangout on Air thing works. I found a button that said, so I created an event, and then from inside the event I said create me a Hangout, but the Hangout wasn't a Hangout on Air, which meant it didn't have a link, which meant I couldn't send it to you, so that's why it wasn't there. Don't you be mean to my Windows phone, because I broke it already. But then again, we have my other precious here, my new iPhone 6. Ooh, it's blue. All right, we should probably get started. Let me do a little test recording here. Okay, Alpha Geek Radio is still messed up. All right, I'm going to stop it and quit. Okay, why don't you restart on your end? I'll stop, Steve, and you go ahead and restart. And shoot me a note. I will entertain the audience while you restart Alpha Geek Radio. Let's do a test recording on GarageBand. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com. All right, let's tell me if you can hear this. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com. All right, look to me like you heard it. I got a little blinky light that indicates you did. Let's see what Steve is saying here. Okay, he's going to restart Alpha Geek Radio here. All right, anybody else sneak in under the line other than Kevin there? My Corona. I like that. Okay, Dan says playback is good. Kevin says he can hear it. All right, we are good to go. 6. I'm going to talk a little bit about a poll that iMore did that's pretty fun. Take a look at this. I'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat room there. They did a poll, and exactly 50% of the people said they wanted 4.7, and 50% said 5.5. Actually, not exactly. 49.3 and 50.7. So that's pretty fun. Did Leon leave? No, Leon is there. All right, Steve, have you restarted? Oh, he's just chatted me here. Try Alpha Geek Radio one more time. Let's try and get that up. All right, I'm saying connection established. Alpha Geek Radio. I also did that, or lips didn't move. What did I do? Audio is not great in the Podfeet browser. Mike Corona, what do you mean exactly by that? Maybe somebody, give me some more detail on not great. What that means. Is it stuttering? Is it doubled up? If it's okay on, Dan, tell me, is the audio okay on the app? Because if it's okay on the app, then all the sources get the same thing except Alpha Geek Radio. IceCap stream on video on YouTube close to real time. Good. Okay, so it's okay there. So the only thing we're struggling with is Alpha Geek Radio, and I don't know whether it's restarted or not, but I'm going to go ahead and start the recording here. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, September 21st, 2014, and this is show number 489. Well, before we dig in, I'd like to take a quick second to ask if you enjoy the show, or even if you have ideas for improvement, that you might pop over to iTunes and leave a quick review. It actually makes a big difference in podcasting if we get a lot of reviews, and many people don't realize that you can actually post a new review every year. Maybe you've done it before, but it's been a while, or maybe you've always meant to do it but never got around to it. Today would be a lovely day to type in a word or two and pick the number of stars you think the show deserves. Many thanks to all of you who've done this before and those who plan to do it in the future. Well, I'm sure by now each of you either has a new iPhone, are waiting for a new iPhone, or are never getting the new iPhone, and in any case are really tired of the conversation about which one to buy. So I'm not going to add to it. I more recently did a poll of the readers asking which iPhone people were intending to buy, and at the point when I checked, they had 17,315 votes. Sorry, 315 votes. The answer was split almost exactly 50-50. Technically, it was 49.3% wanted the iPhone 6 and 50.7% wanted the iPhone 6 Plus. I thought that was actually fascinating. That means no one can tell you which one you're going to like, so we don't need to keep endlessly droning on about which one is better. With that aside, I thought it might be fun to chat a bit about a few unusual things that I found with my iPhone 6 and iOS 8. First of all, the iPhones have always come in distinctive boxes. Now they come in a white label box that simply says iPhone. On the back, they've applied stickers to identify in teeny print which model it is, and in slightly bigger print how much storage you have. In really tiny print, it says the color. This might not sound like an important deal, but I like to sell my devices later, all pretty like with the original box and packaging and everything. How am I going to tell my boxes apart? Maybe I got to put stickers on them. Well, let's see. The new iPhones are rounded as we all expected, which is awesome, but I didn't realize that the glass would be rounded on the very edge as well. Makes swiping side to side really swell, but I think it also makes it a bit harder to hit the letters on the edges of the screen. I have one password that has a lot of the letter A in it, and I have to really concentrate and hold when I hit the A to make sure it gets recognized. Or maybe it's just me being lame. I'd be curious if anybody else has noticed this. I love statistical data with large sample sets to prove a point, but that doesn't keep me from drawing conclusions without a lot of data. In my very limited use of 3 days, I think the battery life rocks on this thing. By the way, I do have the iPhone 6. I don't know if I mentioned that, not the 6 Plus. I went for a walk with 35% left on the battery. I listened to podcasts for a 53-minute walk, and when I got back, I had 31% left. It used 4% of my battery to listen almost for an hour. Now, I know for a fact my iPhone would have been below 10% after that length of time of listening. Yesterday, I went to bed. I had 33% left on the phone without having charged it all day. That was with well over an hour of podcast and listening, an awful lot of games of 2048, and in general having a blast with my phone all day. Let's see. Next up, I was really hoping to go skinless on this phone because it's so pretty. Yesterday, I was sitting down with the phone in my pocket of my tailored shorts. I stood up, and it flipped right out, face down on the concrete. Shockingly, it was fine. I sent a note to my 2 kids, for whom I had also bought iPhone 6s, and they both wrote back that they too had both dropped theirs. My daughter's was fine, but unfortunately my son Kyle's had a crack in the screen. I was really, really sad for him. After just getting it, I couldn't bear the idea of him having a cracked iPhone, so this afternoon the 2 of us went over to Apple to have a chat. There was a line of about 45 people out front and no Genius Bar appointments until Tuesday. But I spoke to the woman at the entrance and I explained the situation. I started by saying I had just bought 3 devices at full price and that all 3 of us had dropped them within the first couple days, but only 2 of us were lucky. Kyle showed her his cracked iPhone. She asked, "Do you have Apple Care?" And I said, "No, but my plan was to buy it on all 3 phones today after getting his fixed." She gave us a sly grin and said, "Hang on." She went away for just a minute or two and came back with a Genius, and they explained that because it was so early after getting it, they're going to take pity on us, and they handed him a new iPhone for free. Then he said they won't even use up one of the 2 repairs you get out of Apple Care. I thought at least they would do that. So Kyle and I bought leather cases for our phones too. And they let me buy Apple Care on Lindsay's phone, even though it was in San Diego, because they reasoned, if it was broken, you would have told us, because you told us that one was broken. Apple customer service wins one more time. We were astonished. Really, really happy about that. By the way, the guy told me not to tell anybody, but I explained to him I was a podcaster, and he said, "All right, go ahead. Just don't use my name." Well, I haven't played very much with the new camera yet, which seems kind of odd for me, but it's only been a couple of days. But I did take a photo with the front-facing camera, indoors, but pretty well lit by sunlight from the windows. And it was amazing. So clear and sharp. I would definitely use the front-facing camera now, where I used to shun it. I took another one in a dark room with the blinds pulled, and while of course not nearly as good, it was not nearly as grainy as the iPhone 5S's front-facing camera. I'm sorry, iPhone 5's front-facing camera. Now that makes sense because they said they improved the light gathering of the front-facing camera on the iPhone. I did do a little slow-mo video with a 240 frames per second camera, and it was of Tesla catching a Frisbee, but I haven't had a chance to process it yet, but boy, is that fun. I'm afraid my friends are going to see a lot of videos of Tesla. Get ready. Here's another interesting point. Do you realize that the 128 gigabyte iPhone 6 Plus is $50 more than the 128 gigabyte 11-inch MacBook Air? Seriously, that bad boy is $950 full price when you can get a MacBook Air for $900. Something to think about. Maybe it's how bikinis are more expensive than giant boy bathing suits? I don't know. I gotta say, bottom line on the phone, I really, really like the new iPhone 6. I also love how Apple comes out with the new OS a few days before the new phones. I like it because everybody gets something new and shiny to play with that way. As much as the new hardware amazes and delights, I think half of my enjoyment might be because of iOS 8 itself. It's not all happiness and joy for me, though. Let's start with the happiness and joy, though. I am digging these new keyboards. But before I get into them too far, I should say I really love the predictive text pop-ups on the regular iOS keyboard. I thought it would be distracting, but I'm pretty sure it's way faster for me than typing, pecking away. I start typing and it tells me the word and I just hit the autofill. At least on the tiny iPhone screen that's true. On the iPad, I'm pretty good at typing with that because it's got such a bigger keyboard. The first phone I ever saw this capability on, by the way, was of BlackBerry, but I'm delighted still that it's come to iOS. Next up, I added the Swipe keyboard. That's SWYPE. It's $1 in the App Store. I really wanted to try out this method of typing where you just swipe your finger around on the keyboard and it magically figures out what you meant to type. So you swirl it around and then you lift between words. Swipe works pretty well, but it did one thing I don't like. When it got close to the right word, I couldn't just back up a letter or two to fix it. It would delete the entire word when I hit one delete key. It's not huge, though. And I do really like that it offers to learn words, which is pretty cool. I taught it NosillaCast right away. Later on, I found out that the keyboard SwiftKey is actually free, so I threw that one on there too. I like SwiftKey better because it lets me correct words more easily. If you want to have your unique words saved so they work on other devices, you'll have to authorize SwiftKey to be allowed to put them in the cloud, which you may or may not want to do depending on your privacy threshold. I said yes. I thought I was going crazy later in the week, though, because I was on my iPad and SwiftKey stopped working properly. I could still type by pecking, but gone was the wonderful swiping, which was why I wanted the keyboard. I uninstalled and reinstalled it, and still no joy. Then I went on the website, and I discovered swiping isn't yet supported on the iPad. Well, at least I wasn't going nuts. Another thing I don't like about the swipe keyboard on the iPhone is that it uses a couple of extra keystrokes to get to the keyboard switcher, which is kind of annoying because I'm running a whole lot of keyboards right now. Another thing I'm really happy with is dictation, and iOS 8 rocks. Now, my friend Dan told me recently that he never uses the keyboard. He only dictates into his phone. I had limited success with it before, but with iOS 8, it's a lot better. On iOS 7, when you were talking to it, the typing field stayed empty until you hit done, and only then would it reveal what it thought you said. With iOS 8, it shows you real-time what it thinks you're saying, and you can even see it back up and correct things based on context. Its accuracy appears to be way up, too. Now we have cooler keyboards, and maybe we don't even always need the keyboards to type, so that's just awesome. I think we've caught up to Android here, finally. A non-obvious feature of Messages is that you can pop in videos and audio clips and photos right into the thread without much work. Tap the photo button and slide up, and the photo just jumps right into the stream. Many fewer taps, which could be dangerous because it just jumps in there. I think my favorite feature, though, is as a recipient, it works a lot better. I have to explain, I had a 16 gigabyte iPhone before, so I've been struggling with saving space, and my messages were full of videos and photos that are really hard to delete. With the new Messages, when you view a photo or video that has been inserted in the way I just described, you get red letters under it that says keep or expires in 2 minutes. If you let it expire, it just leaves your phone. Sort of like a half Snapchat that way. I'm going to take a break. Yeah, I saw your message, Leon, about going back to iOS 7. All right, let's see. Oh, we're talking about the Throwback Thursday picture. I don't think that was even you. That was, I don't know who that was. Mike Corona, you keep changing names. I like it. Save? Oh, I probably should save. That's a good idea, Kevin. Oh, let's see. Right, I just saw a typo. Let's see. iOS. Let's see. 16 gigabyte iPhone. All right. Okay, time to complain. Raise to listen, speak. Ooh, I don't know, nurse. I don't think I've tried it yet. Okie dokie. All right, enough joy for now, though. Some things are feeling pretty buggy to me in iOS 8. They feel kind of beta-ish. And, you know, I was on the beta and I forgave a lot of stuff because of that. But now that I'm in the real delivered iOS 8, I'm not sure about some of these things. So I got to tell you, if you're on the fence about whether it's time to upgrade, listen up. It's only a couple of things I've found so far, but it's still weird. I might have overdone the number of keyboards I put on. Once I had 5 of them in there, things started to get weird. I've had more than one occasion where no keyboard at all appears and there's no option to flip one up. I had to actually quit the application I was in and go back in to get the keyboard to come back. Secondly, both my iPhone and iPad have awakened, zoomed in so far I can't see anything on screen. In fact, it took me a little while to figure out what was I even looking at. It was just like this blurry area, and it was the the way they blur the background for you in iOS, and so I didn't even know where I was. So I'm trying to answer the phone. I can't answer the phone because all I got is a big blank screen that's kind of blurry one color. I eventually remembered the 3-finger tap and got them back. But that wasn't quite what I was looking for. Several times when I use Spotlight to search for an app, if I misspell the name of the app, like I get partway through spelling Skitch, for example, I spell it S-K-I-T, I can see Skitch come up, but then if I hit the wrong letter next, Skitch disappears like it should. I erase that one letter, and now nothing comes back at all. Like it's like, I don't know. And I delete all the characters, type them in again correctly this time, and it doesn't come up. I have to go out and back in to get something to come up. That's kind of hinky. My iPad is not obeying Do Not Disturb. It is dinging away constantly. I have the volume turned all the way down, and it's still ding, 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 ding. And I don't even know. It's not even bringing stuff up on screen. It's dinging about something, and I don't even know what it is. If somebody knows how to fix this one, I really want to hear about it. Well, that's going to end my diatribe and discovery for now. In any case, I'm having a blast both with the new iPhone 6 and especially iOS 8. Saying Jingle Bells on NAMP? What? Big in Virginia, my Sharona. What does he try to get me to do? Let's see. Dan, you said we're both having that issue. We think it could be a bug. Is that the raise to speak you're talking about, Dan? My Sharona. My Corona is singing My Sharona. Okay. All right. I don't remember exactly how that's supposed to work. I remember reading about it, but I don't remember ever using it. Actually, wait a minute. I did make a phone call today, and it went to speakerphone, and I wasn't able to just lift it. So we're going to make SwiftKey the default. I'm not sure, John. I don't think you can. I do know, and I haven't gotten a completely figured out how this works, but Kelly Guimont was saying that if you put the keyboards in the order where the bottom one is the one you really want, that's the one you're going to get first, but I'm not sure that's really working that way. So I'm shocked Dorothy is not going to be on the bleeding edge. Oh my gosh, that's crazy, Dorothy. I really, really thought you'd load it first day. That's amazing, Dorothy. Dan and Nuris might be interested. Slough asked us whether there was a way to create a keystroke where you could move the cursor just a little bit, like 1/10 of an inch at a time, in order to try to hit buttons that aren't visible in a screen reader. And Dorothy is working on a script to try to get that to work. And so we're doing some interesting work there. I should make sure we should have them beta test for us, Dorothy. I suppose we should let Slough too, but Dan and Nuris. You guys are good beta testers, right? Yeah. So the idea is that a blind person is looking at the screen and there's a button that's not labeled, so when they slide over it, it never shows up and they don't hear what it's supposed to be because the programmer's a dope and didn't label it correctly. The idea is you talk to somebody sighted and they tell you, okay, if you go over 1/2 inch and up 1/4 of an inch from this button you can see, then you're going to find that correct button. So Dorothy's program allows you to get it in one place and then say you hit it, you want to go 1/2 inch, you hit it 5 times to go 5/10 of an inch, and then 1/4 of an inch up or whatever, that kind of thing. So you can slide it around. That's the idea. I think it's going to work. It's close. Like a sailor in a small navy, it's a little dinghy. What's the matter with him? He was dropped on his head as a child. Over the years, you've heard me complain about the Drobo for a very long time, and it's really not the fault of the Drobo itself. Steve and I bought a Drobo FS many years ago, but I didn't think we really needed it. I felt like we succumbed to the convincing advertising of our podcasting friends. I didn't think we had a problem for it to solve. I have to admit now, though, after a few years, Steve and I have both started to use it quite a bit. I offload things that I don't need to be local, like my old uncompressed audio files of the show, which I probably never will need, but you never know, so it's nice to be able to keep them out there. I keep disk images of OS installers on there. I also started scanning in bills and such, and I don't want those things on my laptop, so the Drobo's a nice spot for it. Steve does a lot of video editing using Final Cut Pro 10, and he was never able to save his project files because they're huge. These are basically uncompressed files. He started saving them when he realized he had gobs of space over on the Drobo. So I have to admit that over time, a soft spot in my heart has grown for the Drobo. Over the past couple of years, we've had 3 hard drive failures, and it's actually rather pleasing to get an email notification to see and then go see a red light on one drive. You simply pull it out and you replace it with a new drive and await the notification from Drobo that now all is well. Now, I'd rather not have hard drive failures, but it wasn't ever catastrophic because the Drobo just like they say, it's just beautiful. You just plug it in and it's just a wonderful thing. Now, the Drobo FS that we bought is, however, notoriously slow. It takes forever to mount a share, which looks like a folder to the user, and the Drobo dashboard app is also slow to connect. I'd never measured the speed of moving files to it, but as soon as Dave Hamilton told me it was slow, then it really started to bother me. Fast forward to now, and Dave and macOS Ken are advertising the Drobo 5N, their new network-attached 5-bay unit. And Dave says it's fast, so Steve and I started to get the itch to upgrade. But we really had no excuse to do this, no problem to solve, as they might say. Steve adroitly pointed out, though, that since the files we store on the Drobo do not exist anywhere else, It's technically not a backup. I didn't realize, by the way, that in addition to his uncompressed video project, he's now storing all of his finished videos only on the Drobo. Now, these files are protected from the most likely disaster, so in a way it's like a half a backup, that of a hard drive failure. So in that sense, they are a backup. But what if the controller for the Drobo went out? We could potentially lose all of the data. This did happen to a friend of ours, and he ended up sending it back to Drobo, and they were able to reconstruct the data, but we'd sure rather not go through all of that. Luckily, now we'd rationalize their decision to buy a new Drobo 5N. Steve ordered the 5N, and we actually bought it directly through Amazon, not using one of the affiliate links. So I made a point to write to Drobo to tell them that Dave Hamilton, macOS Ken, had talked a lot about the Drobo 5N, and that's why we bought it, and so that they got their advertising chops. But we got a better price, actually, directly through Amazon. And so now it was time to choose some drives. We found an article over at Backblaze.com, and there's a link in the show notes. Backblaze is one of the online backup companies, so they buy a gazillion drives, right? And remember I talked earlier about liking a lot of good statistics that were actually statistically significant because of the sample size. Well, they outlined their experiences with drive failure rates. Now, remember I mentioned we'd had 3 drive failures. I'm pretty sure 2 of the 3 were Seagates, with the third being Western Digital. I'd always assumed it was like most things. You can have a bad experience, but it's just random. You know what they say? There's 2 kinds of hard drives, the kind that have failed and the kind that will fail. But in fact, according to Backblaze, the failure rates on drives from Seagate are 3 to 4 times more prevalent than on Western Digital drives. Even more impressive are the Hitachi failure rates. Where Seagate is as high as 14% annual failures, Western Digital's are at 3%. And Hitachi comes in at around 1.5% to 2%. I put a link in the show notes to the article so you can read their analysis for yourself and see exactly how they figured all this out. But this data pushed us to buy Hitachi drives from a third party to populate the new Drobo. Now, we are not thinking that these drives will never fail or will last forever. They could fail tomorrow like any other drive, but we figured we were hedging our bets with going with Hitachi. Now, there's one more decision point. With the Drobo 5N, you can choose to also buy an mSATA SSD to implement what they call hot data caching. Evidently, this is supposed to speed up data access, and since that was one of our main complaints, we threw in that SSD. By the way, this mSATA SSD goes in the Drobo accelerator bay, which is a small slot in the bottom of the unit, so it still leaves 5 bays open for normal disks. Just realized my glasses are dirty. Can't see a thing. Selling a Rode Podcaster? Yeah, I haven't seen the Google stats. That isn't any cleaner. Why don't I use one of these glasses cleaners? Yeah, I didn't see the data from Google recently. You guys want that article? While you're watching me clean my glasses, let me take a copy link, and we'll give that to the live chat. There you go. Whoops, I just gave you the iMore poll a second time, didn't I? Why did that not work? Come on, copy. Wrong link. How's that? Here we go. All right. Ready, Teddy. Here we go. When the new Drobo arrived, Merry Christmas, Steve, by the way, I suggested, why don't we run some speed tests? We know the Drobo FS is slow, so it would be fun to compare, and again, to continue rationalizing our purchase. We read online that while you can move your drives from the FS to the 5N, you'll only get partial speed improvement if you do that. The real speed comes when you put in all new drives in the 5N. I thought it would be cool to measure that difference too. So the plan was to test read and writes to the old FS with its drives, then the 5N with the old drives, then copy the data to the 5N on new drives and run the speed test a third time. That would be cool data, right? Steve popped open the 5N and he put the drives from the older the FS into the 5N, and he started to run speed tests. But he noticed that the 5N was doing a fair bit of chunking away on those drives. He had a sudden horrid thought. What if the 5N was somehow optimizing those drives for its own use? Not overwriting them or anything, but maybe they wouldn't work in the FS when he was done. He called Drobo, and they confirmed, yep, those old drives can't just be slapped back into the FS. Well, this isn't as bad as losing the data, but we just dropped close to $1,000 on this new unit with all the new drives. We want to put the new drives in it. We don't want to put the old drives in it, but how do we get the data out of it? So, I should mention, we only have about 2.8 terabytes of data on the Drobo right now. So I dashed off to the store and I bought an external 3 terabyte backup drive. I figured worst case we could send this to a friend's house later and we'll have an offsite storage of what we have on the Drobo. So now realize what we have to do to fix this problem. So we've got the data on the old drives in the new unit. So we have to copy the data from the Drobo 5N to the external drive. Then we have to move the original old disks back to the FS. We have to reformat them over there, put the new drives in the 5N, and then copy the data back from the backup drive to the new 5N. And then, in the end, what we wanted to do was keep the FS to do backups of the 5N, so we have to configure a backup program, probably super duper, to start backing up the 5N to the old FS. So we're going to move the data, let's see, from the FS to the backup drive, that's once, from the backup drive to the new drives in the FS, that's 2, or in the 5N, that's 2, and then from the 5N back to the, 3 times. We're going to move 3 terabytes 3 times. Now, as much fun as that sounds, it gets a little bit worse. Steve's iMac is the logical one to do all this nonsense copying back and forth, but the poor dear, he only has 8 cores, a terabyte drive, an SSD, and 3.4 gigahertz i7 in this 27-inch iMac, but it does not have USB 3. Keeps complaining about that. Anyway, so it's slower than if we use my MacBook Pro, but I'm not willing to tether my laptop for the next week or 3 while we do this. He's also on Wi-Fi. We could hardwire him, but I think our Wi-Fi network is faster than USB 2.0. I also remembered that the cable we used to connect the Drobo to the Drobo room years ago is Cat5, so it's actually only 100 base T, so it's not even gigabit Ethernet. So we dragged a Cat6 cable down the hall to the gigabit switch, so at least that's not the limiter there. Now he's seeing peaks of 240 megabits per second read and writes, so I think we're doing okay for now. I think we're past halfway now getting the data across, and in the meantime, Steve has bought one of these dongles, little dock things. They call them docks, but it's Thunderbolt on one side, and it's going to give him a couple of USB 3 ports and gigabit Ethernet there, which he already has, but he'll have another one. Anyway, that should help the speed when we start moving it back the other way. But anyway, I expect you're going to hear more about all of this during the next week. Wait, Leon learned the benefit of patience? You used the word patience like as in people who have to go to the doctor. Did you mean patience as in waiting? I know, I'm just teasing him. All right, we're at 21 minutes. Yeah, I gotta do that. I want to keep going. It might be a long show. What are you gonna do? All right. I've really been enjoying how much it's made people nuts that I, A, bought a Windows phone, and B, that I actually like it. Part of my reason for enjoying it has been the constant help of Joel Rushworth, who I met through Chris Ashley of the SMR podcast. Joel is not pushy at all, but he's just there with a gentle suggestion, the helpful hint, and the, hey, have you tried this yet? A week ago or so, he asked me if I'd move my SIM card from my iPhone to my Nokia 635 so I could give it a real shakedown and use it as my primary device. So this was before the iPhone 6 got here, and that seemed like a good time as any to do that. But I told him I hadn't because the iPhone uses a nano SIM and the Nokia takes a micro SIM card. He showed me, he told me that he was buying some of the little adapter carrier things and he'd be happy to send me one when he got his. Good as his word, the adapter showed up a few days later. During one of the endless podcasts I was on last week, I shouldn't complain, I loved every minute of it, but man, I did a lot of podcasting last week. I used a paperclip to pop out the nano SIM on my iPhone. The adapter carrier thing from Joel was a little piece of plastic the shape of a micro SIM, but with a pocket in it the shape and size of a nano SIM. Let's just call it an adapter for brevity. I laid my iPhone SIM in the adapter and popped off the back of the Nokia. I should mention that the Nokia doesn't feel like it needs a case at all. The back feels kind of like a case and pops off without too much effort. Under the case is the battery, which is easy to remove as well. Then there was a little metal piece that was obviously where the micro SIM was supposed to slide in. I slid in the adapter, put the battery back, popped the back on, booted it up, and Bob's your uncle, the Nokia 635 was a full-fledged phone on AT&T. Of course, this was an idiotic thing to do while on a podcast because shortly after that, someone called me, and instead of being in Do Not Disturb mode like I always do with my iPhone, the Nokia rang away happily. Anyway, proof of concept complete, I reversed the process with the full intention of giving it another go when I had some time to dedicate to really thinking out using the Nokia full-time for that week. The only problem was that I had this tiny little plastic adapter, and I was afraid I'd lose it. I had a brilliant idea. I opened up the Nokia and put the adapter into the little connector without the SIM card in it. Put the battery back in, and I replaced the back, and I knew that adapter would be safe. I would never lose it. Yeah, it turned out to be a really dumb idea. The next day, I was ready to do another experiment with the Nokia and the Nano SIM for my iPhone. When I went to pull the little adapter out, it wouldn't slide back out. I pulled gently, then firmly, and then with a little bit more emphasis, but it would only slide in and out a few millimeters. Steve is pretty good with electronics too, so I enlisted his help. He pushed and pulled a bit, and then he figured out what the problem was. Remember I said I had to flip over the adapter so the Nano SIM was on the underside of the adapter and then it fit into a little pocket? Well, when you slide it in, there are 3 pins that push up against the Nano or micro SIM to make the hard physical contact. With no SIM in there at all, the 3 pins pushed up into the pocket of the adapter, catching it so that we couldn't pull it out. We're nothing if not resourceful. All we needed was something stiff enough, thin enough, and narrow enough to slide in under the adapter to push those pins back so we could slide out the adapter. I think the kind of shims you used in the old days to catch, to check the gap on the points in your carburetor would have been just perfect. But I'm pretty sure we don't have those anymore. Heck, I don't think we have carburetors anymore, do we? I had a very old metal ruler that would slide almost in. It was thin enough so we knew it would work, but it was too wide so we could only go at an angle and we couldn't catch all the pins. We festered on this for a day or so and then decided, on Joel's advice, to just take the phone apart. No problem, I've got a full set of Torx drivers. But our drivers went down to T6 and this required a T4. Steve went out and bought me a really cool driver set that went down to T4 along with some other nice drivers just to keep in my electronics kit. Either way, I'm ahead so far, right? I got new tools. We took out every screw we could find, and just like always happens on this kind of thing, we could get it to pull apart, but not along one edge. Doesn't that always happen? Our buddy Ron came over for dinner, who is also quite clever in this arena, and no matter how many gin and tonics we had, we could not figure out how to get this thing apart. The next day I went on to iFixit looking for a teardown. I found a lot of Nokias, but none had the exact same problems that I was looking for. Off to Twitter again and help yet again from Joel, who came to my rescue. He found a teardown for another Nokia and it had the tiny little trick to fix the problem. When you look at the 2 pictures in the show notes after hearing this explanation, you'll think we were all idiots or had too much gin, but we never would have, for a second, would have found out the problem. What looked like a solid case was actually a piece of very firmly applied black tape. Pull up the tape, and voila, a nice little screw underneath. All right, I want to take a break, so I'm going to show you guys this picture because you guys are going to think we're idiots. Let's see, this one, and we'll go with, let's see, let's go with that and share. Okay, so you see the phone there, guys. It turns out this looks all solid black plastic, but this is actually a piece of tape right there. See along there? See my cursor going across? That's a piece of tape. So when you pull the tape off, oh look, there's another screw. Unbelievable. All right, let's see. Oh, I could just hit stop screen sharing. Oh, that was faster. It's an easier way to get out. Cool. All right, did I see a nice little screw underneath? Cancel, cancel. No, cancel, please don't. It's way too long. There you go. And voila, a nice little screw underneath. Okay. Uh-oh, who's teasing Leon? I hardly write, but try and stop me from talking. See Mac World Roundtable 2014. I like it. I like it. All right, so you guys can see we weren't just idiots. All right, finally we got the phone apart, and we had little more access to the SIM slot than when we started. I left the phone open for a few days on the kitchen counter, just hoping for some inspiration, looking at it every time I walked by, thinking how to get that darn adapter out. Then one day, Steve pulled his car out of the garage, giving me an unobstructed view of our pegboard of tools. I just stood there, looking at clamps, electrical tape, saws. There's got to be something. Wait, jigsaw blades! Yes, jigsaw blades are much narrower than my ruler, but they're still nice and thin. Now, of course, I wouldn't shove the saw end into the SIM card slot, but the end that goes into the saw was a nice little rectangular end. I dashed over the phone, and I slid in the jigsaw blade. It turned out I had to jiggle it around a bit because it was actually a little too narrow now, so it would only depress 2 of the 3 pins. Got it at the right angle, got it to push down all 3 pins. I grabbed the adapter and pulled, and out it popped. My victory was not to last, though, because along with the SIM card adapter, out popped 1 of the 3 pins. What I didn't think about was that the jigsaw blade had holes in it, one of which nicely grabbed hold of that pin and ripped it right out for me. Well, I guess the good news is that I reassembled the Nokia, and other than not being a phone anymore, it works perfectly. I've now given you instructions on how exactly to turn a Nokia 635 smartphone into a Nokia 635 Touch. All right, what's Kevin complaining about? Yes, that says link can't be found. What is Kevin complaining about? When in doubt, blame Guy. All right. I don't know what Kevin's complaining about. I hope it's not that he can't hear the show. That would be tragic. I think I just got beer on my glasses. I'm having a terrible time seeing tonight. What? You guys want to know a little secret? When Chris Breen takes his glasses off, he has really dark circles under his eyes. He told me, he said, no, Allison, they're terrible. And he pulled them off, and I screamed. Okay, you hear the show. Good. That's all we care about, my Sharona. All right. That's not too bad. 27 minutes. Perfect. You guys probably think I make all these stories up, but I use Clarify all the time. This week, my friend Marianne wanted to know how to figure out if her MacBook Air had the necessary hardware to support the new handoff feature in iOS 8 in Yosemite. Handoff is a feature that will allow us to start an email on our Macs and then finish as we walk away using our iOS devices. It also works between iOS devices. It's one of the big magic integrations so many of us are so excited about. However, you do have to have Bluetooth 4.0 low energy, also known as Bluetooth LE. I was pretty sure I knew how to figure it out, but I did a bit of the Googles to verify. None of the sites I looked at showed graphically how to point and click to quickly find the answer. Instead, they relied on long, drawn-out explanations. So I whipped open Clarify, took 2 entire screenshots, dropped in a couple of rounded rectangles, an arrow, and maybe I threw in 20 words of text. I tapped on Edit, Copy Document to Clipboard, flipped back to her email, and I hit Paste. I knew there'd be no questions, no misunderstanding of my instructions, and she'd have the answer to her question. I think that's the real beauty of Clarify. It's not just that it's easy and fun to make the instructions, it's that you only make them once. No follow-up questions, no clarifying questions, if you will. If you love helping people, it's great. If you hate helping people, it's even better because you get them out of your hair and you don't have to talk to them anymore. Either way, it's great. Go check out the free trial of Clarify over at clarify-it.com. Oh, and the little tutorial I made for Marianne to find out if your Mac will do handoff is available at a link in the show notes. 1Password working with Touch ID. I hope the iPad 2 will have this ability. iPad Air 2. Oh, okay. Paul Shadwell. Good gracious. 6 plus 9 is 15. It's 3 o'clock in the morning for you, young man. Is the baby up? What are you doing here at this hour? All right. Let's see. Kevin, ears off. We're going to the jingles here. Let's see. Favorites, jazz, 44th Street Long. Throw that up there. Put this back. Slide you over here. Right there. Having too much fun tonight. All right. Let's hear notes. Okay. It's not too bad. All right. Let me go find some chit-chatty. So Ian is here. Ian Douglas is here, and he is the guest for Chit Chat Across the Pond. If you guys don't remember him, he's the guy that always says an idea worth sharing. Ooh, I just remember you wrote back into we didn't put any kind of plug for like if you want to find Ian, if you want to talk to Ian later or anything. We didn't put anything in, and I wrote to you and you wrote back and I didn't notice it. Okay. Oh, you want to put your you don't mind putting your email address out there? Are you sure, Ian? Yeah, a whole iFixit toolkit would be really fun. All right, I'm just going to slap this in here at the end. Right. Let's see. So verify with me that you. Yeah, they got some good toolkits, Steve. That's actually that's a really good idea for me for Christmas. They did Ian say maybe a 2 and 1 we'd get fighting over who. How many families are like us and would want that? Okay. Yeah, but you, Ian, that's the Google Plus thing, so that's perfect. But you also gave me your email. Do you really want me to post your email? I mean, I post mine everywhere, but okay, he does. Mail to : there we go. Blank. There we go. Let's see. Ian Douglas. Google Plus. That's cool. All right. Don't let me forget to say that at the end. Oh, it doesn't have the pentalobe drivers? Okay, so Steve, time for a symbols check here. Show notes. Oh, I can tell you right now. It's that time of the week. That was too slow. I like it more about there. Let's see. Well, it's that time of the week. How about right there? Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond, and I'm pretty excited to have a new guest on the show. His name is Ian Douglas, and you've actually heard him before. This is always about symbols and too soon. I don't know what that means. So symbols stay still, and I move the audio. Is the audio coming in too soon? Voice starts too soon. Okay, that's what you mean. Good. All right, let's try that again. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond, and I'm pretty excited to have a new guest on the show. His name is Ian Douglas, and you've actually heard him before. You probably remember him as the guy who... This could drive Ian crazy. He keeps wanting to hear his interview, and he's like, oh, so close, so close. Okay, last one. Well, it's that time of the week again. Yeah, my voice is gravelly. I got something in my throat there. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond, and I'm pretty excited to have a new guest on the show. His name is Ian Douglas, and you've actually heard him before. You probably remember him as the guy who ends his recordings with an idea worth sharing. Ian's been a photographer from the time his dad gave him a camera. I think he started at age 4. He's interested in astronomy, so I guess he must like everything Bart talks about, radio and aviation, so there's something for our aviation crowd. And he eventually found computers as his passion in high school. He's recently gone back to university, and he's getting a master's in computer science, and he's interested in security and focusing on connected vehicle communications, which is going to be the source of our conversation today. He just attended the 21st Intelligent Transportation System 2014 World Congress in Detroit, and he was so excited he demanded to be on Chit Chat Across the Pond. How are you doing today, Ian?
Pretty good, Allison. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this. I know you have a good voice and a great microphone, and you seem to be interesting. So whatever you want to talk about, I'm cool with that.
Well, I was really impressed that this World Congress came to Detroit this year. It's real timely thing because my master's thesis is starting, and I wanted to get these contacts. I had not noticed these folks before. They started meeting in Paris in 1994. I can't believe they've been having that kind of a Congress for 21 years.
So there have been intelligent transportation for 21 years?
They're claiming in one form or another that they've been needing to get together like this and get the experts out at things for that long.
I suppose if you go back, if you look at little things like the ability to tell the pressure in your tires or something, that's kind of smart. You know, little pieces that have come along the way, right?
And electronic toll collection. There's a few different systems like that that people just wanted to do things. We've got cameras getting installed all over the place now. There is just an awful lot happening out there with connecting transportation management systems and information to drivers.
Right, right. So this Congress, this Transportation World Congress, has been all over the world.
They started off in Paris in 1994. They were in Tokyo last year. Next year is scheduled for Bordeaux, France, then Melbourne, Australia, and Montreal in 2017.
Wow, wow. Now, you're from Canada yourself, correct?
Yep, I live just south of Detroit.
Okay, all right. Well, we're practically homies then, huh?
That's right, yeah.
So you were excited about this because this is relevant to your studies. What did you learn about the future of where intelligent transportation is going?
Well, we all think about the future, and we've seen, clips back from when General Motors was doing tests in the 50s, and all the cars look like jets, and we're all thinking
George
that we're going
Jetson, right?
Exactly, that's the thing.
Where's my flying car?
Well, and people want to push a button and have it take them there. And I guess Google kind of got people's attention earlier this year in the last couple of years with their autonomous vehicles.
But they're not the only ones doing autonomous vehicles. They're just kind of the loudest and most exciting.
Which is normal for Google, right?
Sure, right.
So it's really interesting because that's not exactly what we're going to end up with.
We're not going to end up with self-driving cars?
Maybe, eventually. But near future, stuff that you and I will know in the next 10 years, not quite.
Okay. So what kind of stuff are we looking at?
So right now, in the very near future, your car's not going to only be able to talk to other cars. It's going to also be able to talk to traffic lights and other roadside devices.
So it's going to talk to other cars?
That's what they're going to get implemented for us.
Okay. I assume later on you're going to tell us why my car would want to talk to your car?
Well, that's the NosillaCast question, the whole benefit thing, right? What are we doing and why?
Right.
We definitely will get to the problem to be solved.
Okay. So you said it's gonna talk to traffic lights and other roadside stuff?
Roadside devices, if there's areas that have dangerous conditions possible,
All right, that was fun. But we're going to keep going with the show. We had a nice discussion. This was a lot of fun, guys. But that's at 1 hour and 12 out there. We'll go ahead and listen to his sign off because it made me happy. I liked it. All right. Let's see, and then I'm going to come in right here. Okay, here we go. Just tease us. Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Allison, and I hope you all think that this was an idea worth sharing.
All right, I love that he ended with that line. That's a great tagline. I neglected to ask Ian for contact details. If you want to follow him, probably the best way to do it is on Google+. He's simply Ian Douglas, and there's a link in the show notes to that. And if you want to email him, it is 4iandouglas@gmail.com. That's the number 4, Ian Douglas, IAN. DOUGLAS at gmail.com. And of course, there are links in the show notes to all of that. But that's going to wind us up for this week. Many thanks to our sponsor for helping to pay the bills. Head on over to BlueMangoLearning.com, makers of Clarify. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions. We've been getting a lot of good questions lately. Allison at podfeet.com. You can follow me on Twitter and app.net at podfeet. And the NosillaCast Google Plus community has broken through the barrier of 400 members. I'm telling you, when I get stuck, I go over to the Google Plus community and I post over there. I just posted a question today. I'm looking for a backup drive for my daughter, and I know somebody's going to give me the answer. Might be George from Tulsa, because he is a really active member out there, knows a lot of stuff about drives. It should be really fun. So, and don't forget to stop over to iTunes and drop that little press a button there and leave a little review. Really help out the show. If you want to join in the fun of the live show, like I believe this was the first time good friend of the show, Leon, has ever come to the live show. If you want to do like he did, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCast castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Yes, Steve, I did remember the very opening was about iTunes, but it didn't hurt to throw it in again. So we got it at the beginning and the end there. All right, time for some music. I never told Kevin to put his ears back on, so we'll go ahead and drop that in. I don't know if Ian, had you ever been here? You probably haven't been here live either. The next thing you see me do is to drop in the audio here at the end. All right, I think it's a little small there, and then we go to the other end. One of the problems is if I accidentally click on the songs in the view that I get in GarageBand, they autoplay, and for some reason they autoplay at about 8 times the level you would ever want to hear them play. Actually, this is more interesting if you guys get to see GarageBand, so we'll go ahead and let you see a little GarageBand while I play. So if I click down here, like where it says Midnight Dialogue Medium, if I hit that accidentally, it will blow your ears off. And Kevin has had problems where his ears have fallen off in the past, so we always make sure to warn Kevin before we hit play, because if I forget. But Kevin, I think you put your ears back on. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Macintosh bias. Today is Sunday, September 21st, 2014, and this is show number 489. Well, before we dig in, I'd like to take a quick second to ask if you enjoyed... I was typing it in, pay for 489. Well, before we dig... Wait. I think that was... number 489. Well, before... All right. So the next thing I do is I zoom down and I sew together all of these pieces, because for some reason sometimes you get like a little ghosting where the pieces overlap where I stopped and started. If I ever did a cut, I don't know if I did a cut this time, but I always go back and do it if I can. Oh, I'm glad you, not live since the Hangouts, used to be in the chats before I went back to school. Okay, right. So, I guess I can, no, this is more interesting. Allison speaks in purple. Yes, but then I changed to orange for some reason. So when it's all zipped together, I save one more time. And now notice I saved, I hit export song to disk, I don't compress it, I hit export, and when it's done, it's going to say, I'll quit, and it'll go, wait, do you want to save? And the last thing I just did was save it, so... Perfect show length. I'm happy. Happy, joy. Oh, sharing vacation photos. Oh yeah, it's a sad story. It was so cool what we were trying to do, but just didn't know. Somebody gave me a hard time on Twitter, said, oh, I guess you never read the manual. Well, we did read the manual and actually said, oh, you're not even looking at me. Stop. We did read the manual, and it was how to pack your drives for the transition to your Drobo 5N, going from a 5S to a 5N. And all it says is, yeah, you can take the drives out of the FS and stick them in the 5N. It says back them up for, no, what did it say first? It said make sure that you have the latest firmware update on both devices. That's all it tells you to do. So it doesn't say anything about moving them back. Too long didn't read it. We did read I did read the manual, but it didn't say. So anyway, it's 6:03, so we should probably get off of Alpha Geek Radio. Thank you everybody from Alpha Geek Radio for coming. Steve, did you ever check quick check the stats? I sent you a reminder for every week, and I think you checked it off as completed. You did check. Okay, good. All right. Goodbye, Alpha Geek Radio. Thanks for coming. I better give the channel back. I'm late. Goodbye. All right. Next up, I think I'm going to turn off. Let's see. I'm going to stop the broadcast to the app. So at the very least, goodbye, Dan and Nuris, because I think that's where you're listening. So goodbye. And let's see. Install and quit. I'm going to quit that. All right. and then wait, finish installation. Oh, sorry, something's installing, and I'm going to quit. And then we will say goodbye to the live show, and I'm going to go off air, and I might go chat with my husband, so I'm going to say goodbye here. Goodbye. Do you notice how American I am today? Go USA.